My wife said, "Making you happy isn't my job," so I showed her what life looks like when I stop caring. But before we continue, write in the comments what state you're watching this from and how old you are. Enjoy the story. My name is Jake, I'm 40 years old, and I convert vans into fully functional homes on wheels, mobile homes, as I call them. This isn't just work, it's my life's passion. I've been pouring my soul into it for over 12 years, the same amount of time as my marriage to Jessica. One of these projects was flourishing, the other was falling apart at the seams, but I ignored it for too long. Tuesday evening. The day had been productive. I was finishing an order for retirees who dreamed of traveling across America. I installed a new kitchen, shelves, sleeping area, everything made from natural wood. I came home tired but satisfied, my hands still smelling of wood shavings even though I'd washed them 3 times. Jessica was sitting in the kitchen scrolling through her phone. She didn't even look up when I walked in. "How was your day?" I asked, setting my lunchbox on the table. "Fine. Had 3 clients. The girls from marketing are stressed. They've got chaos over there," she said without looking away from the screen. I nodded, opened the fridge, and started taking out ingredients. "I can make your favorite, chicken with vegetables. You just relax." "Do whatever you want," she muttered without glancing up. This had become routine. I'd ask. She'd brush me off. I carried the household burden while she lived like a temporary guest in my house rather than with me. I'd stopped noticing when this became normal. While chopping peppers, I told her about delivering the van to my clients today. You should have seen their faces when I showed them how the bed transforms. She responded briefly, not listening. I sighed and decided to try again. "Listen, maybe we could drive to Miami this weekend. Weather's supposed to be great, just the 2 of us, like before." She looked up sharply. "This weekend?" "No, I'm going to a yoga retreat with Amanda." "But you just went last month," I tried to say calmly. "Jake, don't start. I have a life too. I work." "I'm not arguing. It's just, we haven't spent time together in so long." "Oh, great. Here you go again trying to guilt trip me," she snapped, slamming down her phone. "I don't have to make you happy, got it? It's not my job to make you happy." The knife froze in my hand. The kitchen went silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I looked at her, hoping she'd reconsider. Add, "Sorry," I said that in anger, but her eyes held only indifference. As if she'd been preparing to say this for a long time and finally decided to. In that moment, something inside me cracked, not with a crash, quietly, like ice breaking underfoot. I barely slept that night. Those words kept spinning in my head. "I don't have to make you happy." I lay there staring at the ceiling, car lights outside casting shadows on the wall. Jessica, slept as usual, turned away. There was a whole chasm between us in the bed. When did we become strangers? I remembered how much I'd done for her. Made coffee with almond milk, memorized her co-workers' names, planned trips around her yoga classes, listened to her complain about clients. I thought love meant giving without expectations, but that night I realized, if you're not valued, you're just servicing someone else's convenience. Something quietly shifted inside me. A door opened to a different path. The next morning, I didn't get up an hour before my alarm to make Jessica coffee. Usually I'd wake up first, silently put the kettle on, brew her coffee with 2 spoons of sugar and a drop of almond milk, set the cup nearby while she was still stretching and turning. It was my way of saying, "I'm here." But that day, I stayed in bed. The alarm rang and rang. Jessica got up, turned it off, went to the kitchen. 15 minutes later she called out, "Jake, where's the coffee?" I lazily stretched, walked to the kitchen, and calmly replied, "Forgot. Sorry." I walked past her, poured myself a cup from what she'd made, bitter and weak, how she liked it. Not my taste, but I said nothing. She stood there with her cup, squinting. "Are you okay?" "Better than I've been in years," I answered honestly, and went to the bedroom. This was the first time I behaved the way she did, without explanations, without accommodating. I picked up my phone and started checking emails while she got ready. Usually I'd ask where she was going, who was on her schedule. "Don't you have a short day today?" she asked from the hallway. "I'm behind on Peterson's project. Need to catch up." "Ah?" She nodded briefly. She was thrown off that I wasn't going into details. She was used to me, always explaining, always reporting, but I no longer felt the need. There was a strange, light feeling. Not joy exactly, but freedom. Like I'd finally taken off a heavy backpack I'd been carrying without noticing how foreign it had become. I left without the usual kiss on the cheek. "Have a good day," she called after me. "You too," I replied and closed the door behind me. At work, I dove headfirst into a project, a van for a couple wanting to travel the south. The husband, Peter, was waiting at my workshop, excitedly showing me pictures. "We want something reliable for mountains and back roads, but with a shower and stove. My wife's allergic to stuffiness. We need excellent ventilation." I listened, made sketches, showed how we could arrange the sleeping area, kitchen, storage. In that moment I realized, this is where I'm truly valued, where people listen to me, where I feel alive. "You're a genius," Peter said, looking at my blueprint. "My wife's going to be amazed." I smiled. Those words sounded special because at home, no one called me a genius. Jessica would, at best, nod silently at my ideas, more often not even asking what I was working on. That evening I got a text from her. "Don't forget dinner at Nina and Rob's tonight at 7. I'd asked in advance. Nina was her yoga friend, business networking where I usually played the role of the silent, smiling husband. Before, I would have gotten ready, shaved, shown up on time. But that evening I simply replied, "Can't make it, working late on Peterson's project." 3 dots appeared in response, then disappeared, then appeared again. "But you promised, Jake." "Sorry, important order, tight deadline." I didn't wait for her response, just continued working. My hands smelled of wood and glue again, but there was no familiar weight of guilt in my chest, just focus and inner clarity. When I finished for the day, it was past 8. I didn't go home. I stopped by Murphy's pub, where I hadn't been in probably 7 years. Tony, the owner, was behind the bar. "Well, I'll be damned, Jake. Look who's alive. Decided to remember you have a life too," I chuckled. I ordered a burger and dark beer, sat in the corner without rushing, without thinking I was late. For the first time in years, I was just present with myself. When I got home around 11, the living room light was still on. Jessica sat with her arms crossed. "Where were you? The dinner happened without you. I was embarrassed." "I was working," I said calmly, taking off my jacket. "Then I wanted a beer." "You smell like a bar." "And you smell like complaints," I replied tiredly. She straightened up. "Are you having some kind of crisis?" "Number," I looked her in the eyes. "Just an awakening. You said you're not obligated to make me happy, and you're right. But then I don't owe you anything either." She hadn't expected that. Her face went pale. "We'll talk more later," she said. "Not tonight," I replied and walked past her. For the first time in many years, I slept peacefully, without the weight on my chest, without the familiar feeling that I owed someone explanations, had to please or accommodate someone. I woke up early out of habit and went to the backyard with a cup of coffee. The morning air was fresh, grass still dewy. I sat on the old bench I'd built myself and just looked at the sky. Jessica came out later in her robe, perfect hair as always. "Good morning," she said, sitting beside me. "Morning," I replied. She looked at me intently, as if searching for cracks in my armor. "We're drifting apart, Jake. I can feel it." I silently drank my coffee. I was thinking, maybe we could go to that steakhouse you like on Saturday. My treat. Before, I would have been thrilled, thinking she'd awakened, wanted to get closer, but now I heard not care, but an attempt to maintain control. "Can't make it. I promised Tony I'd help with a poker tournament at Murphy's. It's to raise money for veteran housing." She blinked in surprise. "You play poker?" "I do. You just never asked." I went to get ready for work, not because I wanted to escape the conversation, but because I was sure this conversation wasn't about love, but about convenience. That evening at Murphy's was loud and good-natured. The guys' old acquaintances were surprised. "Jake's alive! Where have you been hiding?" "Got married," I replied, and everyone laughed. I didn't elaborate that I hadn't just gotten married, but dissolved. Years flew by, and I'd almost forgotten who I was outside the role of husband. The games went one after another. The atmosphere was simple. No one demanded anything. No hints, no resentments, no expectations. I just was, and that was enough. I made it to the final table, won third place. I donated the prize money to charity without hesitation, and you know what? It felt genuinely good. When the evening ended, a guy named Kyle approached me. "Listen, Jake, Peterson gave me your contact. I want to convert a van for Appalachian tourism. Can you do it?" "Of course. Let's meet at my shop tomorrow morning, discuss everything." When I drove home, I didn't even look at my phone. There were several missed calls from Jessica, but I felt no guilt. For the first time in a long while, I wasn't thinking about her, but about myself. She was waiting in the dark living room, hadn't turned on the lights. "You didn't even call," she said. "I was busy. Tournament, meeting, business." "You were drinking." "Yes, and ate a burger, alone, with pleasure." "I was alone all evening," she exclaimed. "I was alone too, but by choice." She tried again with voice, intonation, gestures, but I could see right through it now. Not care, not love, control. "I found a potential major client," I said. "Tourism business. If everything works out, it'll take the workshop to a new level." She didn't respond, just looked silently, for the first time with doubt, as if seeing for the first time that I could live without her, and even better. Sunday morning was surprisingly quiet. I woke up early as usual, but without rush. Jessica was still sleeping, back to me, as always. I got up, went to the kitchen, made strong coffee, and went to the backyard. Where her peony flower beds once were, weeds now stuck out. That's about how our marriage looked too. Overgrown, abandoned, without care. She once enthusiastically planted, took photos, wrote posts about inner harmony, but all of that had withered long ago, both the flowers and us. My phone buzzed. Message from Kyle. "Bought the van, ready to meet tomorrow. I'll send dimensions." I smiled. A new chapter was already beginning, without unnecessary noise, without fanfare, just work where I feel alive again. Jessica came out later in her robe with coffee. "Up early," she said, sitting beside me. "Habit." I was thinking maybe we could talk. I nodded. "I realized I haven't been giving you enough attention lately. I want to fix that." Before, my heart would have skipped. I would have thought she'd realized. Now I just listened calmly, without emotion. "It's not about attention, Jessica. It's about caring." "But I do care." "No, you cared when it was convenient for you, but not about me, about the role I played." She fell silent. I continued. "When you said you're not obligated to make me happy, I understood one simple thing. You never wondered if I was happy. You cared whether I was convenient. A convenient husband, convenient life." She reached for my hand. "Jake, I love you. I'm just confused." I looked at her palm on mine. Before, this gesture would take my breath away. Now it was just skin on skin, meaningless. "You don't love me," I said. "You love the idea of me. A husband who does everything, doesn't complain, accommodates, is always there. Convenient." "That's not true," she flared, but doubt flickered in her eyes. "When did you last ask what I want, Jessica?" I added gently. She didn't answer. "I'm going to the shop today. Kyle's coming to discuss the project. Tourism, business, big van, serious work." "You're going on Sunday?" "Yes. Work doesn't choose days. And you often go to retreats on weekends, don't you?" She looked at me like she didn't recognize me. And maybe for the first time in 12 years, I really was a different person, one who'd stopped being afraid of disappointing her. I drove away and didn't look back. At the shop, Kyle and I examined an old 24-foot bus. The foundation was excellent. We needed everything: shower, fold-out seats, kitchen module, autonomous power. "My tourists are demanding," he said. "We'll make it work," I promised. "I already have a plan." We drew on napkins, measured, estimated. In 3 hours, I signed the biggest contract of my life. When I was driving home, I wasn't thinking about what Jessica would say. I was thinking about materials, deadlines, logistics, about a future where I'd choose myself again. She met me in the living room in a black dress with wine glasses and candles. Beautiful, elegant, manipulative. "I was waiting for you. Let's just spend the evening together." "I'm tired. Have to get up early tomorrow." "Just one evening, Jake." I approached, took her hands, gently moved them aside. "You're used to me always agreeing, but I don't live by your scripts anymore." She recoiled. "Everything's about work with you now." Now I have my own life, without guilt, without obligations, to someone who's no longer interested in me as a person. The next 2 weeks flew by in work. I breathed the new project. Kyle's bus wasn't just an order, but a challenge. Big scope, non-standard solutions, many nuances. I hired 2 assistants, bought materials, made sketches, agreed on layout. I was living in a rhythm that was mine again. Communication with Jessica became formal. Morning, hi. Evening, will you eat something? Sometimes nothing. She tried different approaches, sometimes turning on offended silence, sometimes wearing lingerie, sometimes starting conversations about vacation. None of this came from love, but from fear of losing the familiar. Friday evening, I was sitting in my office sorting through finish samples when she entered. "Alice and I are meeting up, going to a bar. Don't wait up." I nodded without looking up from work. "Won't you ask who, where, why?" Tension sounded in her voice. "When did you last ask what I'm living for?" She froze. "You just completely stopped being interested." I stopped pretending it all mattered to me. Stopped pretending I don't notice how I don't exist in your worldview. She stood silently. I looked at her and saw a woman I once loved, but now simply knew. Beautiful, poised, smart, but foreign. Not an enemy, just foreign. "So you're getting revenge," she exhaled. "No," I replied calmly. "I just don't live by your needs anymore. I returned to my own." She left, slamming the door loudly. I stayed at the table among blueprints, screws, lamps, with a feeling of surprising and light relief. Her mood no longer affected me. Saturday evening at the shop was another poker tournament. I helped Tony. The hall was full of people, old acquaintances, noise, excitement. I hadn't felt like I was with my tribe in a long time. No one pulling, no one cutting you with passive aggression. Everything simple, near, because you want to be near. I didn't win in the finals but played beautifully. I donated the prize money to support the veteran shelter. Afterwards, Kyle approached me. "Sorry it's so late, but couldn't help myself. Wanted to personally thank you. The bus mock-up is gorgeous. We'll definitely work well together." I returned home close to midnight. The house lights were on. Jessica sat in the kitchen. "You could have at least texted that you weren't coming home." "I'm an adult. I can be where I want." "You've become different. Before you always explained, asked advice, consulted. Before I thought you saw me as a person. Turns out I was convenient background." She looked at me silently, face without emotion, but for the first time her eyes held no anger, only loss. "I signed a 5 million contract," I said, opening the fridge. "I'll be loaded for the next month." "Good for you," she exhaled quietly. "You don't even ask what the project's about. Don't know if it's worth it. You're already somewhere else, not with me." I wanted to say she was right, but didn't. Just went to shower. That night I went to bed and for the first time didn't wait for her to turn her back to me, because I no longer cared. Another 2 weeks passed. Work was going full speed. Kyle's bus was taking shape, extending kitchen, autonomous power, transformable furniture, shower cabin. Everything by my hands, my blueprints, my soul. This wasn't just an order, it was my answer to myself. I can. I'm needed. I'm alive. Jessica and I established cold peace. No screaming, no caresses, no reproaches, no care. We were like neighbors who accidentally ended up in the same apartment. Friday evening, she appeared in my office door, dressed up, in heels. "I'm going to Alice's bar. Don't wait up." "Okay," I replied without lifting my head. She paused. "You completely stopped asking where I am, who I'm with. Would it change anything for you?" She crossed her arms. "You're getting revenge on me." I just stopped sacrificing myself. Before, everything was about you, your work, your plans, your needs. I was in the shadows. I got tired of it. "And what now?" she asked quietly. "Now I live honestly." She left without hysterics, without theatre, just the door, and silence again. Saturday, I went to the shop, and evening again to Murphy's. There was a charity evening, raising money for the veteran shelter. Games, socializing, warm company. I felt like I was in my own life, without explanations, without tension, without pretending. Kyle was there too. We sat at a table and discussed ideas until night. What if we make a relaxation zone with panoramic windows in the bus? He suggested. We could install a fold-out awning for scenic stops. We drew on napkins. People approached, listened. One entrepreneur asked for my contacts. He had tourism business ideas. I already knew this was a new stage. When I returned home after midnight, the house lights were off, quiet, peaceful. The next morning, early, while I was drinking coffee on the balcony, Jessica approached from behind. In her robe, no makeup, tired face. "We need to talk," she said. I nodded. "Talk. I see I'm losing you. I didn't understand right away, but you really have changed. I want to get everything back." I was silent, looking at her, feeling absolutely nothing. "Jake, I still love you,